Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to our Middlesex County Council meeting for Tuesday, July the 18th. And I know that you would all prefer to be outside, but we'll just have to make do with everybody being inside. So we acknowledge that the land we stand upon today is the traditional territory of the Attawandaron, Anishinaabe, Haudenosaunee, and Lenapehoik peoples, who have long-standing relationships to the land, water, and region of southwestern Ontario. The local First Nation communities of this area include Chippewas of the Thames First Nation, Oneida Nation of the Thames First Nation, and Munsee Delaware Nation. We acknowledge the treaties that are specific to this area. Treaty 2, the McKee Purchase. Treaty 3, Between the Lakes Purchase. Treaty 6, London Township Purchase. Treaty 21, the Longwoods Purchase, and Treaty 29, the Huron Tract Purchase. We value the significant contributions, both in the past and present, of local and regional First Nations of Turtle Island. We acknowledge historic and ongoing injustices that Indigenous peoples in Canada endure, and we affirm our commitment to honoring Indigenous voices, nations, and cultures, and to moving forward in a spirit of reconciliation and respect. So recently, the Ontario government honored paramedics from across the province, including paramedics from our own Middlesex London Paramedic Services, with the Ontario Medal of Paramedic Bravery. This medal recognizes and applauds the bravery of paramedics who risk their lives in the service of others. It is my extreme honor to be able to introduce to you the 5 MLPS paramedics that were recognized for the extraordinary courage and commitment to not only their profession and this service, but to our community. It is no secret how incredibly proud I am of our Middlesex London paramedics, and I know that you are as well. We know that our paramedics every day make significant contributions to the health and safety of our citizens. We know that with every call they attend, be it a vehicle collision, be it a shortness of breath call, a VSA call, or a simple flu-like symptoms call, our paramedics are committed and selfless. They cannot be sure of what exactly they will find or what they will be confronted with when answering a call. These 5 paramedics that I'm about to introduce to you showed their courage, selflessness, and unwavering commitment to their duty as they faced extreme, uncertain, and dangerous conditions. The stories are both humbling and inspiring, and they really do represent the best of our Middlesex County. On the night of August 14th, 2019, paramedics Philip Adams and David Jeffries responded to a call after a vehicle crash into a home. At the scene, a damaged gas line quickly ignited, causing a massive explosion, destroying several homes and injuring almost everyone present. Despite the fiery, debris-filled scene, paramedics Adams and Jeffries stayed cool under pressure to triage, treat, and transport the police and fire personnel injured from the blast. As a result of their heroic actions, all 6 first responders and 1 civilian received medical attention for their injuries, but all survived. Unfortunately, paramedic Jeffries is unable to join us today, but we know our congratulations will be forwarded to him. On December 11th, 2020, Deputy Chief Adam Bennett, Advanced Care Paramedic Josh Hill, and Operations Superintendent Michael Hurst responded to the partial collapse of an under construction residential building. At the scene, several construction workers were trapped under rubble, while others were covered in wet cement. Despite the risk of the building's further collapsing, the 3 paramedics entered the area without hesitation. Deputy Chief Bennett and Superintendent Hurst assessed the trapped workers and coordinated their extraction and transportation where possible. Paramedic Hill tried to stabilize another worker who had been trapped under rubble for several hours, helping to extricate and care for him during transport to the hospital. Tragically, one worker died while still trapped, and another died shortly after. But because of their courageous efforts, 5 workers were safely rescued. Unfortunately, Operations Superintendent Hurst is unable to join us today, but we know that our congratulations will be forwarded to him and paramedic Jeffries as well. I would ask Chief Roberts to come join me up front as we welcome forward paramedic Philip Adams, Deputy Chief Adam Bennett, and Advanced Care paramedic Josh Hill. And as they do come forward, please join me in congratulating these outstanding members of our Middlesex London paramedic service. Okay. All right. Is there any disclosure of pecuniary interest? Okay, seeing none, we do have to go into the approval of the agenda, but we have added an item and we do have to go in camera on a property matter, and we will be doing that after Cindy Howard's reports. So if I could get a mover and a seconder to approve the agenda as amended, please. Councillor Smybert and Councillor McMillan. All in favor? And that's carried. Okay, we have two sets of minutes in front of us. One from the open minutes of the County Council meeting on June 20th and the closed session minutes from June 20th as well. And if nothing needs to be amended on that, I would ask for a mover and a seconder to approve those two sets of minutes. Councillor Grantham and seconded Councillor DeVite. All in favor, and that's carried. On to our new business. First report is a report from Kelly Jobert, the Commander of Logistics with MLPS. And joining him is Josh White, our Procurement Manager. And this has to do with a request for proposal for auto body repairs for our vehicles. So Kelly, welcome, and I'll turn it over to you.
Thanks, Warden, and through you to Council. Just as background, Middlesex London Paramedic Service currently has auto body and collision repair completed at Colorworks Auto Body. Currently, it's not under contract. We worked really close with county procurement on this project, and I'll pass it over to Josh to go through the analysis.
Good afternoon. Through the Warden to Council. So as Kelly alluded to, we issued an RFP on February 22nd, 2023, which closed on March 15th. Evaluation was done by a team that consisted of the Commander of Logistics, the Commander of Operations, and a Logistics Officer. The evaluation would have been done on the following criteria: a company overview, which included items such as locations, years in business, number of staff, and the suite of services. The capability of the company. This would be items such as, does the staff have experience, licensing, and training for working on the types of vehicles that are in MLPS's fleet or bodies that are similar? Does the facility meet the need of MLPS for auto body repairs services, such as having the adequate space, being climate controlled, and being secured? The company's ability to meet the requirements that MLPS communicated through the RFP, including making MLPS's fleet priority above all else, meeting requirements for response times, and utilizing original equipment manufacturer's parts unless otherwise approved. In terms of pricing, hourly rates and parts markups percentages were submitted by the respondents, and those were totaled using estimates, hours, and the amount of parts required by MLPS. Upon closing, as you'll see in the report, we only received a single response from the incumbent Colorworks body in collision. The evaluation team reviewed that proposal against the criteria that I just mentioned and deemed that they were more than adequate in performing the work moving forward. As part of this RFP as well, it was intended to have a second stage where MLPS's evaluation team would visit the site and get a sense of whether or not they can truly fulfill the requirements. Knowing the incumbent and being familiar with the facility, they declined that opportunity, knowing the contractor as they were. I should note that part of this RFP, knowing that there would be a limited number of responses, we were hoping to identify a backup contractor in the events that Colorworks would have some sort of issue, or there'd be a significant number of MLPS fleet that would require repair. Unfortunately, as you can see, we didn't receive another response. With that, I am working with the Commander of Logistics teams in identifying new opportunities and getting out to meet potential auto body shops who could one day perform these services, as well as induce some competition next time this goes out to market. This contract, if awarded, will commence upon execution and run until July 1st, 2026. And with that, I'll pass it over to Kelly.
Through the warden to council, financial implications, there's no labor rate increase from the current hourly rates for the term of the contract. The total estimated hours are 1,400 hours for a total of $100,800 plus HST. The estimated parts cost for the contract term is $93,750 plus HST. There's a recommendation laid out for you, and we'd be happy to answer any questions you might have.
Okay, thank you very much for that, Josh and Kelly. Are there questions on this report from council? Okay, seeing none, you do have a recommended motion in front of you, and I would ask for a mover and a seconder on that, please. Councillor Clark and Councillor Smybert, all in favor? And that's carried. Thank you very much. Okay, we do have another RFP in front of us dealing with land ambulance, so I'll turn it back over to Josh and Kelly.
Through the warden to council, this RFP is for the land ambulance fleet maintenance, repair and inspections. As a background, Middlesex Land Paramedic Service currently has all fleet preventative maintenance and repairs completed at Thames OK Tire, located in London. The current contract is set to expire on December 31st of this year. This company, Thames Tire, has won this award several times through RFP. Through the last contract, there was a sale of the business just prior to COVID. I'll turn it over to Josh to go through some of the analysis.
Thank you. Through the warden to council. So the RFP period was the exact same as the previous one that we spoke of, closing on March 15th, 2023. The same evaluation team reviewed the submission, and much of the criteria was the same, so I won't go through that in detail again for your benefit. But where evaluation did differ is obviously we looked at the experience in the facilities as it pertains specifically to the services as part of this contract, as well as a couple other items, including the respondents' parts network. As we all know, the supply chain issues, there's been some difficulty, so we wanted some reassurance that parts would be available for MLPS as vehicles came in and as they were needed, as well as storage on the facility. Because this is relatively routine maintenance, MLPS likes to buy a bunch of parts in bulk and store them at the facility. So when a vehicle goes in, the parts are already there, and that means less downtime for the vehicles. For pricing, for the pricing aspect of this evaluation, a significant component of work are the mandatory inspections that the fleet are subject to. So all respondents provided pricing based on those inspections, and they were evaluated by the estimated quantity over the contract that MLPS provided. Stage 2 of the evaluation, much like the other RFP, was an in-site visit. Unlike the other RFP, we had 4 respondents, and the top 2 scoring respondents after they evaluated the RFP were visited to see if the facilities could satisfy the needs of MLPS, if the staff was adequate and can do the work, and allow MLPS to ask any questions that they deem necessary in terms of completing their evaluation. Following completion of the site visits, the evaluation team felt that both finalists were more than capable in terms of providing the services. Ultimately, from a capability standpoint, they scored within a few percentage points of each other, so it was very close. The price aspect of the evaluation is where the 2 finalists separated, where Corey's Tire and Auto came in approximately 36% lower than the incumbent Thames OK Tire. As a result, Corey's Tire and Auto finished with an overall evaluation score of 81% out of 100, with Thames OK Tire scoring 75%. If awarded, this contract will commence on January 1st, 2024 and run until December 31st, 2026. I'll throw it back to Kelly.
Through the warden to council, based on the current fleet size, the total estimate cost for the 3-year term for preventative maintenance, including pickup and drop off of vehicles, is $416,663.25 plus HST. This cost represents an approximate savings of 30% over current rates. As well, non-OEM parts will be discounted at 10%. There's a recommendation before you, and we'd be happy to take any questions.
Okay, thank you very much. I see Councillor Grantham has his hand up, so I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you, Warden. The question is for Mr. Rayburn, and I had asked this earlier, but I wonder if you could elaborate. was wondering if there was ever any thought to bringing this work in-house at the fleet garage, and if there was any possibility of any savings.
Warden, yeah, thank you. I think throughout the course of our time being responsible for land ambulance, we've analyzed just about every single possibility there is for partnerships. And you used a term about bringing it in-house. I'll let Chris speak to that piece in particular. But we've looked at partnerships as well with other public sector organizations and had exhaustive conversations actually with a few of them, leading to, we didn't get to a partnership, but we could see it from where we were. And so we've tried a number of different things to look at whether there are synergies working with other public sector organizations, including our own. But ultimately, the willingness of people to public sector partners to participate wasn't where it needed to be. So we've gone out to tender for a private sector partner here. In regard to specifically about the county garage, we do a fairly regular analysis, but I'll let Chris talk to, of fleet management in all our contexts. So we also look at whether or not there's advantages to doing local maintenance as well in-house, and sort of do an evaluation of this type of thing fairly regularly, probably about every 3 or 4 years. We go through that. Chris, do you want to just talk about what some of the key factors are that have led us to go private for this particular one?
Yeah, and thanks, Bill, through the warden. Yeah, we have looked at this on a regular basis over the past, and there's a number of obstacles or I shouldn't say obstacles, there's a number of challenges that prevent us from moving forward in any meaningful way on this. The most simple one is just the scale of our facility. So the scale of our facility is really one bay at our central operations center that does our repairs. And we have one mechanic on staff with an assistant. So just the capacity for us to take it in-house at this point would be a challenge, both from a HR perspective as well as actually a facility perspective. Another challenge is just about distances. So, I mean, when we talk about maintaining vehicles, it's quite a distance to travel and this was more of our discussion with partnering with some of our local municipalities to provide equipment maintenance at our central operations. Just traveling from one place to another sometimes is a real obstacle to having an efficient delivery of that service. The last one, and maybe one of the most important ones, is prioritization of service delivery. So typically when our vehicles are in the shop, especially in the winter months, they're there as an emergency for us to get rolling and back on the road. We have a number of flex vehicles in our fleet, as you'll see in my report today. But again, those get redeployed, but we really don't want to hamper ourselves by pushing off an essential ambulance repair in order for us to service our own vehicles to make sure we're not falling behind on our minimum maintenance standards. The last one, and one that's just a little bit of a challenge for us, is some of the regulatory environment around how EMS completes their ambulance repairs and some of the inspection and reporting requirements that they have for those types of vehicles in order to satisfy the provincial requirements for the operation of that service. We, of course, do have regulations we have to follow as well for the maintenance of our vehicles. But it's certainly not as stringent as what the MLPS and their staff have to deal with on a regular basis for the maintenance of their ambulance vehicles. So that's just off the top of my head. There's others that we've talked about in the past, but it certainly is a challenge, and we certainly wouldn't be able to make a operational or a financial argument to move it in-house at this point in time.
Okay, any other questions or comments from council on this report? Okay, thank you for that. And with that, you do have a motion in front of you. So I would ask for a mover and a seconder for this one. Councillor Ropp and Councillor Mayhew. All in favor? And that's carried. Thanks very much. Thank you, Kelly and Josh, for those reports. At this time, I'm going to turn it over to Cindy when she gets her seat back. And she's got a couple of reports in front of us. The first one has to do with primary care recruitment and transition into practice and retention programming, a program funding request. And of course, this stems from the presentation and delegation that we had last meeting. So Cindy, I'll turn it over to you.
Thanks, and through the warden to council. At the council meeting in June, the Middlesex London Health Team provided a presentation about primary care recruitment strategy and asked council for a financial contribution of $20,000 for 3 years. The program would cost around $200,000 in total per year, and they've also reached out to a number of their partners as well as the County of Middlesex. County asked Finance to review the funding request. The concern is that the 2023 budget has already been passed, and there currently is not a funding source for this. Council could refer this request to the 2024 budget process. However, I would like to put that caveat out there that there will be a number of pressures in 2024, and we talked a little bit about that during the 2023 budget process. Historically, council has also followed the grants finance policy and does not provide grants outside of our core county services. So at this time, I'm recommending that the $20,000 not be approved for the 2023 period. And I'm very happy to answer any questions on that.
Okay, thank you very much for that, Cindy. Any questions or comments on this report from council? Okay, seeing none, then you do have the motion in front of you, and I would ask for a mover and a seconder for this, please. Councillor Grantham and Councillor Mayhew. All in favor? And that's carried. Thank you. Okay, at this point, I think that's where we're going to, okay. We do have to go into closed session for a property matter. So I would ask for a mover and a seconder that council convene a closed session at 1:30. And of course, this falls within the pertinent sections of the Municipal Act. Mover and a seconder, Councillor McMillan and Councillor Clark. All in favor?